Yes, you read the title right. This is the finale to probably my most influential series and What If on this channel, besides What If Negan Met the Governor. The finale to What If Rick Never Killed Shane. Hey guys, it is Nick here with another Nick's Topics Walking Dead What If topic video for today. And today, we cover the end of What If Rick Did Not Kill Shane in Season 2 of The Walking Dead. Now you guys are probably wondering, along with my What If Rick was saved by the Reapers, why did I make this before Season 11 came out? Like What If Rick was saved by the Reapers, I looked back at the content that I put on for this What If, and I realized that the material that I needed to make this finale was already there. Like the character development and everything, I just needed to make it... I just needed to think more on it, but I couldn't let myself do that. So today, let's get into it. Now, Shane was a very important character. He was above everyone else in The Walking Dead in terms of his fortitude and how he looked upon The Walking Dead, or, The Walking Dead universe. But there's a thing that stopped him from being a part of it longer. Lori. Lust for revenge and wanting to be the only one fit to lead a group. Not letting Rick have any say-so. But what if he were to not be killed by Rick? That's where this what if comes in hand. Now this is going to be a long video, so whatever drinks or snacks that you want to grab before I get deep into this, grab them now. Because most of this video is going to be a review of everything that's transpired, because it's the finale. So strap yourselves in and get ready for this finale. This all began in the field of Part 1, where Rick and Shane had their face-off, but Rick this time ultimately sparing Shane but banishing him from the group. Shane would then go on to meet the governor eventually, and try to stage an alliance with him in ways of getting back at Rick. The jail saga went per normal up until the point where the governor and Shane and them actually staged an ambush on Rick and the group, with Rick and Shane having an all-out brawl to the death after Shane also learning that Lori had passed due to pregnancy and Carl putting her down. Carl ultimately put them both down on their knees after shooting them in the leg, after saying about his mom and stuff, and that they don't need to fight anymore. Ultimately, conversing the two to be friends once again, weirdly. Michonne would not get to live past season 3 or 2, or whatever you want to call that point, because she would be offed by Daryl and Merle. Now, you might be wondering why Michonne was an ally here, because she trusted the governor more. Speaking of Merle, he got to live a lot longer than his original counterpart, and spent pretty much all of his time with Daryl, as, they did. Andrea would also go on to live past her original counterpart until about Terminus, and after that, where she would be held at gunpoint and killed by the Claimers. Herschel would also go on to live a little bit longer than he did in the original, living to Terminus, but sadly being offed there in the process. A lot more characters would go on to survive, Tyrese also being one of them. He would live to Alexandria, but sadly, when the wolves would attack, he would be offed in the process. Now, there was no hospital arc. I did not, I think, really cover that. This is why the review for this finale is going to be so long, for me reviewing some past mistakes that I forgot to correct, which is why this is very important to watch. The hospital arc did not happen because the group, there was no need to go there. Washington, that whole journey still happened per normal. Beth got to live past her original counterpart, but died along with Tyrese in the army of the Wolves. Now, when we get to Alexandria, Rick and Shane would be the ones to wear the police uniforms as they did when we were first introduced to both of them in the original series, or, the start of this one, whatever you want to call it. Marking their true friendship was finally justified and solved at last. Now, the problem with Pete was initially solved, if you want to call it that, with Shane being the one to not only put Pete down, but kill him, with Rick backing him up as to why it needed to be done. Now, for Deanna and her husband Reg, I did mention that Reg lived, but I didn't mention what happened to the both of them. I will correct that here. They would ultimately be killed amongst the whole wolves and the whole zombie army whenever the clock tower fell. I forgot to mention that, but they would probably die around that time anyway. So there you go for that clarification. Now, when Negan pops up, like I said, I'm trying to make the review as short as possible to get to the main point, just to answer any questions that you guys might have had while I made these parts. Now, when we get to Negan, a lot happens, and there's a lot of people missing. For one, Tara is in place instead of Dwight, with Daryl and Merle meeting Dwight and Sherry, but ultimately Dwight dying in the woods because Merle's there to help. So Tara is the new helper. A lot of people were confused by this, but Tara was the strongest out of her family. So I put her in the place of surviving and Negan eventually finding her, with her being the new right-hand gal, or whatever you want to call it, in place of Dwight. Now, sadly, in Shane, Merle, and Morgan here all die with Negan's bat. Now, some people a lot of people, surprisingly, questioned Shane's death here as a curveball, but not Morgan's or Merle's. I get it. Shane's the main point of the story. I get that. But, you see, he would probably die with the group here regardless, which is why I threw him that. I didn't do it just to get him out of the way. I did it because it was logical. And as for Merle and Morgan, well, I threw in good reasons behind their deaths as well. It was retaliation from Rick and Daryl that caused it. But Shane, his influence still stuck with the group, even if he was dead. And I'll explain more on that later. Anyway, because of all three of their deaths, and Rick and Daryl being captured because of their retaliation, Rick actually going with Daryl, but, not being together, obviously, Carl stages a plan among all communities to get his father and Daryl back and kill Negan. And with all the community's help, surprisingly, convincing them a lot better than the original people did, Negan is killed here by Carl, Daryl, and Rick, and all the saviors are killed as well, leaving no survivors. Carl also gets to live past his original counterpart. Still lost his eye, but it wasn't due to the wolf attack this time, because Shane was there to kill Ron properly and not letting him lose his eye then. Carl and Enid also get together and have a kid, which I named Carl Jr. One person was like, why didn't he name it Lori? Missed opportunity? Well, I threw that name in there because it never happened. So what the name could be and what the kid would look like and everything is a mystery because we're never going to see it happen. So for those of you wondering why I did that, that's why. Anyway, Rick actually stays with the group because there are way more than enough people here, way more survivors than in the original. But then Alpha and the Whisperers show up. And the introduction to them and a little bit beforehand goes per normal. But this time, Abraham, who ultimately got to survive past his original counterpart, Sadly, in the introduction of the Whisperers, he is killed in place of Jesus. And after that, everything else goes almost per normal with the Whisperer arc, up until we get to the heads on the pike scene, where everyone is killed off per normal, with Enid also sadly dying. Sorry, Carl. Now he knows how Rick feels. And all the other people that died are the same, but in place of Henry, Glenn, who survived past his original counterpart, is sadly offed here as well, leading a bunch of people to wanting to kill Alpha. Maggie and Rick and Daryl being particular three of them. And suffice it to say, Alpha is pretty much screwed here, with not only one person after her head. So that is why after part 5, I secluded just a lot of that Whisperer arc, because it would be pointless to write that in. Because Alpha's just done. Too many people after her head. Now the Virgil sequence still does happen, but he's kept around until after Alpha is killed. And Rick is interested in the idea of getting more weapons and stuff, and like stuff to protect him. But whenever he figures out what's going on and stuff, he kills Virgil and returns with the group, right when the Reapers are attacking. Speaking of Reapers, when he returns, Leah is killed in the process, because a lot to do with that, honestly. Same with my what if Rick was never saved by the Reapers thing, but for a different reason. Daryl and Leah would have never met, because Rick still stayed with the group, so Daryl would have never gone out to look for him, which means the both of them would never have met each other, and, that stuff. So all the Reapers are initially killed. Now, we go to a few other survivors. Jesus, who lived past his original counterpart because Abraham died in his place, and Sasha, who lived. And now, I'll be listing off everyone who survived after that. As you can see, there are a lot more survivors in this continuity than in the original. And that brings us to the last place that we left off, the Commonwealth. Now, this part, the recap's much longer than the original, and that's going to be for a couple reasons. The Commonwealth arc, while being similar to how it played out in the original, the group wins here by default. And they just kill everyone off in the Commonwealth. Rick, while not being saved by the Reapers in that continuity, everyone here has a different mentality, being heartless-driven warriors because of Shane's influence. Shane was a big part of everyone's development here. And Rick would see, with everything he's been through, and just Shane's influence as well, him getting killed, and Daryl also being heavily suspicious, and Maggie and stuff, they would not be in any inkling to want the Commonwealth to be like telling them what to do and everything like that. Now, because of how many more survivors in the communities that there have been, the Commonwealth, while having great numbers, would be helplessly outmatched here. Much more so than my What If Rick was saved by the Reapers, because there are so many more people here that the Commonwealth, just shortly after they arrive, are just gunned down helplessly and are ultimately killed in the end. With nothing else to happen, that's where The Walking Dead would end. Like I said, just like my What If Rick was never saved by Reapers, or what if he was saved by Reapers, this seems like an abrupt, stupid ending, especially how long the recap was. But, like I said, to explain on Shane's perspective, although many of you might be sad that he died in Part 3, his influence never left the group. With him being alive longer, this made the group even more heartless and driven to not trust anyone, to only believe that protecting their family was all they needed to worry about, any point able to them. Shane's influence stuck with the group and made Rick and everyone else stronger because of it, which is why I could have made this part so much longer ago. And that's kind of where we end the series, folks. Probably my most influential series, besides What If Negan Never Met the Governor, or What If He Did Meet the Governor, sorry. Which, that's only a 4-minute video, and this is a very, pretty much this was the start of my channel, and I'm really appreciative to you guys for supporting this series and everything that I've done with it. I'm sorry to those of you that think this is a sorry ending for this series, but there's not much more that I could offer in terms of that. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my What If Rick Never Killed Shane. How did you like this series? Would you like to see a different ending play out? What do you think could have happened had Shane lived longer than he did in the original? I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed this What If, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you later.